Hello, and welcome to V's Kitchen. I've teamed up with Skinny Foods who produce great tasting products that are low in sugar and have virtually 0 calories. So if you're watching your calorie intake and don't want to sacrifice any of the flavor, this recipe is perfect for you. In this episode, I'll be making my Smokey BBQ Meatball Mashup. For this meal, it's really divided into 2 parts. First you make your meatballs, then you can put them in the fridge for later for whenever you're ready to make your sauce. And the great thing about the meatballs is that there's 2 ways to make it. You can make it with rice, or you can make it with cauliflower. Now with cauliflower, what you do is you put them in a food processor, and then it creates this cauliflower rice. If you don't have that, and you have like a box cheese grater or any type of grater, you just like scrub it down until you only use this parts, and then that'll basically make your rice. We're making a lower calorie version, so we're gonna make it with cauliflower. So for the first step, we're just gonna add all the stuff that needs like finely chopping up into the food processor, which is our cauliflower. I used about half a head. Here I have basil and tarragon. Now, really you can use whatever spices you want, whatever herbs. I've used parsley, I've made it with rosemary, I've made it with thyme. Whatever you have in your fridge is really good. Crush it a tiny bit in here. Get your flavors out. And then lastly, we just add a chopped red onion. About half a red onion should be good. You just want to pre-chop it a tiny bit. Now, if you don't have a food processor, you can obviously make this all by hand. Like I said, using the box grater for the cauliflower, and then you're just gonna chop your onion and chop your herbs. So yeah, it's ready to go. So in your food processor, you just put it on the chop settings. Should be about 2 runs. So now that you have your chopped vegetables with your herbs, you have your beef, you're just gonna put it all into a bowl. You're gonna add an egg and your spices, which here I have cumin and the Chipotle Skinny Foods. It is amazing. After we've added that, we're gonna add about 30 grams of oat flour. This just helps it all bind together. Here, this is about 250 grams of beef. I'm using 5%. Now feel free to add as much or as little as cauliflower as you like. I promise you won't taste the cauliflower. Plus, you can even save that for later. Maybe cook it up in the pan, add a little bit of garlic, and you just have amazing rice, super low calorie, great for you. So just add your spices now. For this, I'm using about 2 teaspoons of barbecue. Once you've added that, just add your oat flour and crack an egg. Here I have a little bit of salt and pepper. You can add this now or later. I just feel like now it makes it a little bit easier before I get to my mixing. So if you're making this with rice, you really want to thoroughly mix it for about 5 to 6 minutes. You want that rice to almost break down. I'm using cauliflower and it's already been in the food processor, so it doesn't really need that much mixing, but I still want to make sure that it's thoroughly there. So use your hands. So now that I've mixed it for about 4 to 5 minutes, I'm just gonna make them into small meatballs. You can make about 5 to 6 with these. Just wanna cup your hands and do about size of your hand, size that feels comfortable. So now that I've made about 5 meatballs, I'm just gonna put them in the fridge until I'm ready to plop them in the sauce. So for the sauce, what we're gonna need is 1 onion, 2 cloves of garlic, tomato paste. I have about like 2 tablespoons, a teaspoon of cumin. We're gonna have 1 can of canned tomatoes. I have bone broth here, but feel free to use chicken stock, vegetable stock. You can even use water, to be honest. And then, of course, the Smokey BBQ Skinny Food sauce. So now you're gonna wanna thinly chop about an onion. So now that we've thinly chopped our onions, I'm just gonna put this olive oil spray on about medium heat. I'm gonna nicely coat your pan. So then we just add our onion. And that's gonna cook for about 7 to 8 minutes before we add all the other ingredients. So while the onions are about done, you're gonna wanna thinly slice your garlic. I'm using 2 cloves. Feel free to use more or less. All right, now that your onions are a bit softer, I'm just gonna add the garlic that I've previously chopped up. And I'm gonna cook that for about 30 seconds before adding my other ingredients. After that, we're gonna add our spices, which is cumin. Gonna add our chopped tomatoes. As well as your tomato paste. Give that a nice stir and let it cook for about 4 minutes before adding your water or stock. Before you add your water, you want to make sure to add your barbecue sauce. And I'll give that a nice stir. So now that's been cooking for about 3 to 4 minutes, I've added my sauce, my tomato paste. You add crushed garlic. You want to add your stock and or water. Now you're going to crank up the heat a tiny bit and you're just going to wait until it simmers but not boils, which you're going to add your meatballs one by one. Now that you start seeing the bubbles, you want to turn your heat down to a low setting and you want to add your meatballs one by one. Gently drop them in. That's going to need about 30 minutes of cooking time. Make sure your heat's on low, cover it up, and then in about 15 minutes, check, flip the meatballs over. You should be almost ready. So now that it's been about 15 minutes, I'm just gonna check on them and then quickly flip them over. Don't worry if your sauce is a little bit watery. It does really thicken up. Plus, we still have 15 minutes to go. So it's been about 30 minutes. Our meatballs should be ready. As a side, I've decided to make some portobello mushrooms. I've just cleaned them up and grilled them. It goes great with meatballs, but feel free to use any sort of vegetables that you want. You can even use rice, you can use sweet potato, butternut squash. I mean, any vegetables, honestly. And now to check on our meatballs. Look at that. The smell is phenomenal. All right, let's plate up. So this is my barbecue meatball mashup. I'll leave the ingredients and all the instructions down in the description below. Make sure you try it out. Honestly, it's amazing.